welcome to Let's Talk Nation. I'm your man, Rod Love, and with me tonight, because the general is preoccupied, the general is on special assignment, and y'all know the general is out there fighting those battles and winning those battles in the courtroom. So we're going to go ahead and give him his props tonight. But joining me is none other than Doc Polite. Doc, how you doing tonight, brother?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on?
Hey, we gonna see what's going on pretty soon here. Doc, do you know, what are we, 7, 8 days out from the elections?
Yeah, man. I've been quiet.
You been quiet, you say?
Well, in this season, it's more prudent to let your vote be a personal reflection of what you value. I mean, I only got one vote, so it doesn't matter to me how other people are voting. In that, me telling them this or that about their candidate often doesn't have the impact you think it does. A lot of times, it makes people dig in much harder for the person that they are standing with.
Well, then, Doc, with that, let me ask you this question. And the question is, do celebrity endorsements of politicians, does it really have a major impact on voters or voter turnout? What do you think?
I'm gonna say I don't think it does. One of the things that I think about in our society is how much influence or power we give to celebrities and athletes. And I think if you live your life based on an athlete or a celebrity, you got more problems than you think. So in that aspect, I can't relate to how that would influence me. I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump because Denzel told me to. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but Doc, I guess the biggest piece of it is the fact that these celebrities have a reach, if you would. I mean, when you look at what is it, their social media platforms, or how many people are following them, and all that kind of stuff.
Sadly, Rod, we live in a time where honestly, a lot of people want somebody to tell them what to do. They don't want to make that choice all on their own for fear of maybe being ostracized or making a choice that will impact them at work, within their families. So,
Yeah,
I look at it that way.
but I think it also has the potential, man, to backfire. I mean, you and I, we've had the conversation on how it's backfired on Magic Johnson, how it's backfired on former president
Barack Obama.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gamble.
Well, I agree. It is a gamble, but I mean, Rob, I'm not one for sticking my finger up to see which way the wind blows. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't care which way it's blowing. I know which way I'm going. And my concern ain't about what other people do. I always say, I got a saying that 99% of the world's problem can be solved by people minding their own damn business. and that's the reality of it.
So Doc, let me ask you this. Oh, for those of you who don't know, you're listening to Let's Talk Nation, and once again, the general is on special assignment tonight. Doc Polite is joining me as co-host, and we're doing what we do. We're having these regular conversations. We're going to make your IQ go up a bit, but we're having those kind of conversations that we're looking forward to connecting with you, and you don't have to agree with everything that we say. That's perfectly fine, and that's all right. But what we want to do, Doc, I see you laughing over there, but what we want to do is we want to have some level of engagement to where we can open up dialogue and be civil about the dialogue that we're having.
I'm laughing, Rock, because I wouldn't even say that part. Because I don't care.
Hey,
that's just how I'm built. I'm gonna put it out there, like Joe Madison say. I'm gonna put it out there where the goats can get it.
Where the ghost can get it, huh?
Yeah. If they chew it, they chew it. If they don't, they don't.
But Doc, back to the conversation though, and I mean, here's something I want to ask you: is what, and this is not dumbing down the electric, if you would, but
Yeah.
how many people do you believe, if you had to say percentage wise, that actually go do the homework on candidates before they vote? And before you answer that question, Doc, I will say to you, it's not a easy endeavor, because when you look at presidential elections, you got the top of the ticket, you got local politics, and when I say local politics, I'm talking about ballot initiatives on there. Do you want to retain judges, right down to your local politicians, city, county government?
So what percentage? I
Because
would
that's a lot of
say
homework to do, Doc.
I would say less than easily. I know less than 10%.
So
This
so
is
with,
why you have these groups out here. I don't like it, and it to me it's a form of election engineering, electioneering, in that they print out these vote sheets and they send them and give them out to all the old people and you know and certain demographics.
influencing.
Yeah, influence.
Yeah.
They're telling them who to vote. They already got it. Fill it out this way. You know, without an explanation, why do I need to vote for Kamala? What's at stake? Am I just voting because she's got a D next to her name? What are her values? What is her experience? Same thing with Donald Trump. What are his values? What's his experience? Do they align with my own?
But how many
And-
people? But how many people, Doc, do you think go through that process?
Well, Ron, remember they used to have a show called "Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader"?
That was Steve Harvey.
No, it was somebody else before him.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna. No, I'm not gonna say that because this.
Don't
here
say it,
show,
Doc.
so-
Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it.
But there is a level of competency that most Americans at, and it's kind of low, but it's been proven in with empirical data. And so it's not just blatherdash. It's not something that's just thrown out there. It's been proven time and time again. And herein lies the biggest problem. Educated population will make better choices than one who's not who's not educated, because they understand critical thinking. They know how to synthesize things through a framework of values, beliefs, and things like that. Many of our people are reactionary, and they make choices based on what someone told them and whether or not they like the person who told them. And that's always a recipe for being greatly informed.
But that's why also, Doc, it's important to have platforms, if you would. It's important to have people that you trust, people that you're putting. I mean, because Doc, come on, man, let's face it. And,
But what
and-
they say,
and
trust but verify?
trust but verify. You're right. But let's also, Doc, I'm gonna come back full circle. When you look at these ballots,
Yeah.
we've done it. I was going to say nobody's running a class on what is this about, what's that's about. We've done that over the years and stuff. So, Doc, there are people, and there are people in my family, there are friends that will call up and ask, what does this ballot initiative mean? Or are you familiar with, and come on, when you look at the judges,
And now, I'm going to say something else that's controversial. See, we've been told for years, right? Communication is the key, right? You heard that communication is the key?
Mm-hmm.
If you tell people, you know, and communicate it, that's the key to them getting it. But it's not. You know what the key is?
what's the key?
Comprehension. You can talk to me all day, but if I don't understand what you're talking about, I'm not going to get it.
But here's the other key too. And when you talk, and I agree with your comprehension, but Doc, a lot of times it's not comprehension. A lot of times it's the repetition.
But Rod, how can I make a choice when I can't understand what's being asked?
Doc, come on now. You have to agree with me. As many times as you see these political advertisements go out, whether it's about recreational marijuana, whether it's about a candidate, repetition, people, yeah, comprehension is important, but they're drilling into you. Here's the issue. Here's where we want you to be on the issue. And as many a times, that's why those ads cost a lot of money. This is the season for news stations and different platforms to actually increase their revenue.
Let me ask you this. Okay, if you got your core value, what's a strong core value you have?
Say that again, Doc.
What's a strong core value that you have, that you hold?
One of my strong core values is freedom.
Okay. So you value freedom, but if someone comes along and tells you that freedom is overrated and you need to go and serve time in a prison to really experience all of life, you're gonna look at them like they're crazy, because you're not gonna want that experience.
Okay, and let me define this, and let me define this a little bit more for you, Doc. When I say freedom, because that's the first word, the thing that I think about, uh, when I think about my perspective about politics, my perspective about private sector, public. When I say freedom, Doc, I'm talking about more freedom from government interventions, from government regulatory processes. I do believe government has a place, but I think government's place is getting out of the way of the private sector and the public sector to excel. I sit back and I think about, and this is just me, I think about the intrusions of government more than I've ever seen it before in my life. When I think about regulatory processes, when I think about how government, I mean, and nobody used to think about government politicians and their celebrity status. Now, when you go into politics, there's a celebrity status attached to it. So I think about the freedoms from that.
Well, it used to be that way. It very well used to. Right, it's almost shameful in this country. You cannot build a house on your own anymore. You literally have to pay that $300,000 because the cities, the states, and all of that won't allow people to build their own homes. Now, who does that benefit? And who do you think got them to make and pass those laws?
It benefits government, Doc.
Exactly. It benefits a certain group, developers, and home builders. Because now I force you to buy my product. You have no choice because we put the regulation in place that say you can't do it yourself.
Doc, why do you think more people are being forced out of their homes after working 30, 40 years to pay off those homes? What do you think one of the number one reasons why people are actually being forced out of their homes?
We talked about this because you have a government that continues to spend unimpeded, out of control, without consideration of what revenue that they're bringing in. They are giving exemptions away. They're guaranteeing salaries and retirement to people for years, and they don't have the income to continue those plans, and so they're raising taxes. They're raising property taxes. And now, I've read over the last several weeks numerous stories about people losing their home because they can't afford the taxes to that home. And this same home these people have lived in for 30, 40, 50 years. And they're having to sell that property because now the property tax on it is $20,000, $30,000 a year.
And it's a combination of a few things, Doc. And I mean, you hit one right on the head. Property taxes, which, when you buy, be able to afford to purchase your home, you do expect it to increase and time with value because that's an investment. But here's some of the things that people haven't accounted for. Homeowners insurance is constantly going through the ceiling. But then you look at your energy costs, your maintenance, all of that is factoring in people who are on fixed incomes, and now all of a sudden, that planning that they did for retirement, that plan is not stable anymore because you have runaway costs.
It's not runaway, I don't think. I think it's greed.
You think it's what?
I think it's greed from my point of view. And I'll tell you, I'll explain myself. I think what many industries don't think about is what are people's other obligations other than my sector? You know, they don't think about that because if the light bill is charging you as much as the water bill, and what percentage of your income is that, I'm not considering that. My water bill could be and light bill could be so high that I can no longer afford even the mortgage. You get what I'm saying? So there's not a, and I'm gonna say this, and I know you as a Republican, y'all don't like this word, but we need regulatory control over many of the things for everyday life. We really do, because we got Reagan in office and we thought it was going to be a good thing to take these regulations out. Let the market determine.
And Doc, I don't have an issue with regulation. What I do have issue with is, Doc, a lot of this, come on man, and I know you're gonna agree one way or the other, but when you look at the degree in which government is regulating businesses, they're regulating businesses right out of business.
I agree. They are. And they don't need to regulate businesses, they need to regulate industries. Make it the same for everybody. We've talked about this. You know, you got people who, by virtue of just having money, have essentially monopolized their industry so much that other people can't even start in that field because the regulation in place is meant to deter competition, and that benefits that big conglomerate. You know, and that's the same thing that's going on with marijuana in the state of Florida. That's why they don't want you to have your own weed. Why? Because it benefits those who won those contracts to farm marijuana in the state. And so when you have one party that can go in and with money influence and negate everybody else's right to participate, that's not democracy, and that's not free market.
And the word we're looking for, Doc, is the word called balance. There has to be some type of balance there. And so, yeah, Doc, I don't disagree with there's a need for regulation, but I also sit back, man, and I'm watching, having witnessed, and also, I guess to a degree, being a business owner, as a victim of bureaucracy, man. I see where, and I'm just be objective, but man, when you look at some of the processes that are put in place, you spend more time on the administrative side than you do with your products or services. And it shouldn't be like that.
You know, and I've told you several times, I've worked for state government. I ain't gonna say which state, but the ineptitude that I encountered, it was so bad, right? I'll never work in state government again. I mean, I was just done with it. I could not believe, coming from the private sector, I could not believe the ineffectiveness and the protection that was granted to so many people who were unable to do their job as well as incompetent. And we waste a lot of money on those kind of folks. You know,
Doc, I recall when we experienced something that hopefully the country won't experience again. What was it? Once in a 50 year or 100? I don't know what the determinant was, but when you looked at COVID, and you look at the private sector and how it had to adapt to this new environment. You know, you had people working virtually. You had restaurants trying to figure out how they were going to survive, and they went from being a sit-down restaurant to a grab and go. They had to adapt. They had to reduce their workforce in a lot of instances. When this whole thing took place, Doc, the private sector had to look at how it was going to survive, and a lot of the private sector went out of business. Quite a few had reductions in its workforce. But one of the things that I noticed while all of that was going on, government didn't constrict itself. Government continued
Of course
at
not.
the level
Who's
it
gonna tell
was,
the
if not growing.
Who's going to tell the government not to grow? They don't listen to the voters
Yeah,
because this is what everybody does. Well, my representative is good to me. They're not the problem. It's your representative. It's your congressman. And as long as we have that mentality and don't look at the body politics as a whole, we're going to continue to run on that same treadmill. We're not going to ever be able to get anything out of our politicians anymore because so many don't have any loyalties or scruples to any kind of ethical belief system. They just don't. It's
well,
all
I
about.
see. I do believe that we do have them out there, Doc, because I remember an era by which classifications of certain levels of government employees went from being a career service status, career service meaning, government would have to flip upside down in order to terminate you, to where it became what they call select exempt. That meant you worked at the pleasure of, and you didn't. There was no. You didn't. They didn't need a rationale if you served at the pleasure of, because you were at a certain level in government to where you could be told, "Hey, thank you for your service," but
Yeah.
you had to perform at such a level that was satisfactory.
Exactly. And now, is that wrong? Is that wrong?
No, I don't believe it is.
But yet and still, we continue to foster this my job, my position mentality in these places. As a manager and director, I always told people, you audition for your job every day. That's your performance. So when performance review time comes and I got to write it up and I have to let you know, I'm going to be honest with you. Okay, but I was the type of person who, or leader, who would coach you constantly and remind you. And I did not hold you to a lesser standard because I held myself to more of a standard. I don't have a job that I ever did where you can go back and find people say, he was just sorry. He was the worst hire I ever had. It just ain't gonna happen. Because I will always over deliver. And why? Because I took pride in me being the best I could in a particular job. Oftentimes, I've worked many times after hours on my own on the weekends and stuff doing things because I needed it done. Not looking and saying, well, you ain't paying me overtime. No, this needs to be done.
Well, Doc, the difference that I see, and pull that mic closer to your mouth so that we can hear your response to this.
Yeah. That's better.
Here's what I see that's the difference, Doc, and I don't know what your experience has been, but in the private sector, we have to spend every dollar as if it's our own. In
Right.
In the public sector, you're spending other people's dollars. And I think that's where the difference comes in at. And so, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not jaded about it. I mean, I do believe that there are some other public sectors that the level of accountability is greater and the scrutiny of spending and less regulation so that the job can get done is far better. But Doc, man, I tell you, I'm not impressed by what I see now.
Well, so many of us are just existing in these jobs. So many people are. And, I think that work-life balance plays a part. I think compensation plays a part. But as you, my friend, have pointed out numerous times, a business takes the greatest risk in running it because you're subject to the regulations, the costs, and all of that things. The employees, they're not responsible for that. So them expecting too much, as I now think that people do, it can be a problem. We take fast food workers. There's not going to be fast food workers in 10 years. Everything's going to be automated at McDonald's and Checkers and things like that. They just got to work out the bugs. But they're on their way.
This is a conversation that we were having 4 years ago?
Yeah. When they went up to $20, we said this is not sustainable. People are gonna lose their job. And what happened? People lost their job.
Yeah, but Doc, you know what? Remember when the general, Attorney Greg Jackson, was good when he pointed this out. And he pointed out, we going on 7 years now, pointed it out probably 6 years ago.
Yeah.
When we were talking about minimum wage.
Right.
And the conversation about minimum wage was the fact that it was never intended to raise a family on.
No, it was intended to have a starting point of compensation, not that you would stay there. But having worked in the restaurant industry myself, there is a lot of exploitation. I can tell you that now. The way that you account for labor and costs, there's some super bookkeeping that goes on. And when you come with your controllable costs and everything, and your profit margins, they regulate what they can spend on employees. You get what I'm saying? So if they say, well, your labor cost needs to be 30% of your net versus the gross, then you're going to compensate lower.
I just think it comes back to investing in your business, Doc. That's one aspect of it. And when I say investing in your business, that's across the board. Investing in the people that are your most valuable, and I don't want to use the terminology asset, but they're invaluable to your company, because if you got the right people, they will help your company grow. And if your interest and concern, which I think most business owners are interested in.
But you just said the right keyword.
What's that?
Invest in people who want to be there. You get what I'm saying? There are lots of jobs out there where employees come in and they take ownership of their job position, and you don't have to wait for the boss to tell you this needs to be done. You take an initiative because you see that it's a problem and it overlaps your area of responsibility. You go ahead. You're not looking around like, oh, I always get stuck with this. No, this needs to be done. It's going to be done.
But I think, Doc, it goes back to that work-life balance that you mentioned earlier. You got to take that and also balance it with, I guess, the value of reward, or how you're valued by that business owner as well. Because, Doc, come on, let's face it. With the advent, and it's nothing that we can do to stop it, with the advent of artificial intelligence, with the advent of automation, technology, we're going to see more and more of these laborers type of occupations go by the wayside. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it. But then, Doc, in some of the negotiations with unions right now, and you and I, we've had this conversation. You see these negotiations with the, what was it, the Writers Guild a couple of years ago?
Mm-hmm.
All of these organizations are putting in their negotiations for their new contracts so that the businesses, the business owners can't utilize some of these new technologies such as AI and automation that they can't be replaced. Doc, I don't know how these negotiations are taking place if business owners are seeing the demand for rates, like what is it, boycott that's taking place right now, and you know, you look at what those guys, and man, I don't begrudge anybody to make money, but you look at what they're making an hour now, and what they're demanding, they're making somewhere in the neighborhood of about $87 to $90 an hour, working on the port.
Well, I mean, that's just greed. These guys are basically porters. Think about this. Remember when black people did those jobs?
Yeah.
It's the same phenomenon now with the college degrees. The goalposts are moved now, and I say that because what group is the most educated group in America?
What group?
Black women. Black women hold more secondary and post-secondary degrees than any other group in the nation. And now, all of a sudden, the value of having a degree, oh, we don't even need that anymore. And so we are always dealing with so many things happening at the same time, and the goalposts moving in many aspects. To pay someone on a dock that kind of money, when you stand out there basically with a flag, why we don't think about this? You can work on a dock and wave that traffic flag and make how much you say they make?
$87 to $90 an hour.
Okay, and that same flag you can find on the road crew out here, and they out there making minimum wage.
But here's something, Doc, that I don't know if the best description of it is the carrot and the stick. When you look at those port or dock workers, they are actually impacting goods and services that come from all over the world that actually directly impact. I mean, you remember when COVID took place, it was hard for people to find toilet paper. Remember that?
Yeah.
And so when you look at how it has a global impact on the rest of the country, you're in a situation where you're kind of forced to negotiate. Remember when the NFL went on strike, what was it, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
And the NFL basically was trying to navigate around it. What was the name of those players?
The scabs.
The Scabs. And the Scabs went in and they worked for less, but subsequently, Doc, I guess the NFL didn't field the best product that it could put on the field, and I don't know how long the Scabs were playing, and I hate to refer to them as Scabs, but this was another level of talent that was deemed subpar in comparison to the prima donna talent that was able to be filled.
Well, what's the entertainment value? Were the Scabs able to get the same number of tickets sold?
Well, I mean, when you have a following, and back in the day, and I don't know if this coincided with the Scabs, but when you had people that followed Joe Montana back then, and Joe Montana decided he's gonna strike for better pay, well, Joe Montana name took a lot of people with him. And so when you say, was the attendance the same? I mean, I'm gonna say to you, no, the attendance wasn't the same. I believe the other thing that compelled the NFL to resolve that issue was the TV contract.
They recognized that those people did not bring the same value, entertainment value, to their customers. So the workers the players had them over a barrel.
Over a barrel. Yeah.
And so, it was prudent for them to support that. But at the same time, look at how many out of the old players now are scraping by. Many dealing with CTE, uh, knee replacement, hip replacements.
But Doc,
Uh,
when you say the old players, you're referencing a different era too,
yeah.
because the money Tony Dorsett made when he played, yeah, it was significant. But
Hmm.
come on, man, you compare that to today, man. These guys working. I mean, and I don't knock them, man. They're negotiating some deals out of this world. Who is it? Dallas Cowboys played the other night, last night, and they played. Who did they play, Doc? San Francisco.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, I can't knock Dak Prescott for landing a 240 or $260 million deal, and man, Dallas, they're not gonna make the playoffs. They're not even gonna come close.
Well, again, it's entertainment value. People believe in their team, and they want to support their team. So, uh, not only that, but a lot of times pro games are an experience. You know what I'm saying? It's what to do on the weekend. So many people go for that aspect as well. But I wanted to say this. I think they were talking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and his salary when he played, and I don't think Jabbar made over $3 million
You're right.
his whole career. And now these guys are getting 200, 275, 250 million.
Hey, and Doc, these guys are making this money guaranteed. I mean, at least the quarterbacks are.
And let's not even talk about the coach. Uh, what's his name at what is it at University of Florida?
Napier,
Yeah,
Napier.
yeah.
Well, if
Think-
you're gonna go there, you need to go to what's the name? The one who got fired from Texas. I know Mondo will look him up real quick, but Doc, in any other world, when you get fired, you don't get the same reward for working. I mean, now, man, these guys they get fired and they get paid out. I mean, is that a punishment?
Yeah. I'm looking at it. Kareem only made 8.5 million. I'm sorry. That we correct that. His entire career, but he was the highest paid at 3 million at one point. And we got to look at what he transformed the game.
But those
You
were
know?
the trailblazers, man. Those were the
Yeah.
trailblazers.
Yeah,
And
they-
then you look at the quarterback with Kansas City Chiefs. I think he set a record when he signed his $540 million contract.
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes. So I don't knock these guys, man, at all. If you can get it, get it. But boy, man, I mean, when you look at, and I guess I don't need to revert back to some of societal issues, and then kind of roll us into the politics that we have been talking about. When you look at from a governmental perspective, and it's always we don't have resources to do this or do that. But then now the biggest issue and argument that's taking place now is from, and I'm gonna say from black folk that are saying, wait, you never have any money to invest in the black community, but yet you find money when we see undocumented immigrants.
I was hoping you was gonna go there.
Yeah, and you know what?
That's wild. I keep seeing examples of this happening everywhere, where these people are getting this money coming here. I didn't know that they could get Medicaid and housing and all of that right when they come here.
But you know what, Doc, here's what I'll say, and I say this respectfully. Um, and you know, I've had the conversation with you. I've had it with quite a few of my close comrades. And Doc, at some point, when do you stop looking afar to blame everybody else? And when do you look at home and you say to yourself, because I see in Chicago, you can, look at YouTube and look at folk that look like us that's going to city commission meetings now in Chicago, and they're telling those commissions, how is it that you couldn't find money to help improve communities when it comes to affordable housing, but you can take $50 million and put it in gift cards for individuals that are coming to.
And see, and that lies the problem right there, because one thing, it's different spending it on a citizen. At least citizens in some way are a part of the society. These people have never invested in America, never did anything for America. In fact, they're coming here with their problems because they won't stay. And I'm not anti-immigrant, I want to say that. But a lot of the problem I see is you're leaving your home instead of fighting for it.
I've never heard it put like that before, Doc.
I live in this country. I'd rather die fighting for it than to leave it. And I don't understand. And trust me, I've been to a lot of countries. And that's the mentality. Oh, we want to come to America. Yeah, almost everywhere I went, I've heard locals talk about coming to America. And when you look at them, and again, I don't want people think I'm judging them. I'm talking about the reality of it is the fact that they live in poverty and have nothing to contribute in many ways other than manual labor.
But Doc, here's something I'll go ahead and say to you, man, and I truly believe this, man. When you look at the lack of unity amongst and within the black community, I mean, and you've been into the forums that we've had when we've gone into forums, and it's all right to have diverse thinking, but when we say, hey, let's tackle this one issue, and you're able to get everybody in a room to talk, or at least everybody think they're coming to talk about that one issue, but then you see a divergence, if you would, and you bring so many different issues to the table that you can't even get the one fix that was the major issue. And I think that's a problem that we have, and then we'll do this other thing where we'll start taking upon other people's issues versus solving the ones that we got in front of us.
There's no money in the cure.
There's no money to cure it, you say?
Yep.
Well, you know what? As long as we continue to believe that when we see things that are taking place around us, we will continue to be hoodwinked.
Well, unfortunately, the way that things are, Rod, we are going to continue to go in this circle until we make some different choices all the way around. We got to realize it's not Republicans versus Democrats. It's the haves versus the have-not. That's the real game.
Yeah. I mean, and I agree with you, Doc. I see the different cliques.
Yeah.
But man, if those little different cliques can kind of figure out some of the common issues, and like, they say, let's look at those low-hanging fruit. Let's see if we can pull those low-hanging fruit first. And a lot of it, and I know we've had this conversation many a times, Doc, I do believe that the foundation to start these conversations, to move in the direction that we need to move in, is the foundation that we've all are familiar with. It's the foundation that we've all either come from or we've gone back to. And I mean, come on, some people may not agree with me, man, but it's been that foundation of the faith community that no matter how your humble beginnings began, you start from that, or if you get to the point where you forget about it because you think you've made it, and something happens that you subsequently remember, or you go back, or some people never leave, which is good. But Doc, I think the faith community is and will always be the foundation as a launching pad for us to actually get something done, to come together. But again, it hasn't happened yet, and I don't want to be negative, but to me, that's the launching pad.
Well, again, it's all about um, the fact that the church is the most valuable, consistent institution in our community. Um, Almost anywhere you go, there's a black church. So it has that power. Now, the the power of it is subject to interpretation. Um, is it the go-to? Should it be the go-to? And why should it be the go-to?
Well,
In our
Doc, the
community?
only the thing that I would say is it's the launching pad. The thing that you know I talk to you about often is the difference between the P and P. You know, P and P for me is, some folk focus predominantly on pigmentation
Yeah.
instead of focusing on policy. You know, I won't get caught up into that. I mean,
Yeah.
because policy, whether you white, black, whatever, if the policy is something that is of value to me, that's going to improve the quality of life of my community, my family, that's the direction that, I subscribe to go. Man, I don't subscribe to, okay, because the pigmentation is the same as mine, that's where I need to go. No, that's not the direction that I would go in. Now, I'm going to assess policy, no matter who you are. But, Doc, man, I think, we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, we do, but we need to have multiple fronts on which we're fighting the good fight. It should not be the church alone, because one of the things is everybody ain't church. Okay, so they may not want the church speaking on their behalf.
And Doc, you're right. It wasn't church that granted, I can't remember what year graduating class, was it Spelman or Morehouse College with, was it Robert, what was the guy name? Was it Johnson?
Yeah, Robert Johnson.
Hey, that was predicated upon the success of this individual and this guy, one of the, I guess, at the time, lesser known billionaires.
Yeah. And see, that's another thing too. If churches don't want us to default to them, then quit running out there saying you're the solution. It's a lot of churches that don't want to get involved in stuff. But as long as they, as the body, present themselves as the vanguard by which we should get things, then you can't complain when people say you ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, you're right. And Doc, I know you're trying to trigger me. I know.
I'm not trying to trigger you. We got 10 minutes.
I know you're trying to trigger me, but I hear you. And I am very, very respectful when you have the faith community that says, "Hey, I'm not going to take a position on that. I'm good with that."
I understand that, and that's my point. If you're not going to stand out there, quit running out there. Shut your mouth. Go sit down. And to me, the faith community is not obligated to do that. You understand that? We could get into a whole theological reason why. And I'm not going to do that on the show, because I know a lot of your listeners are from the faith communities and everything, and I don't want to make someone think I'm disparaging them, because I'm not. This is just Doc thinking, and and that's how it is. I'm not anti-church. I'm not anti-God. You know my faith. You've seen it in action, Rod. So
Hey, well, then let me ask you this, Doc, because this 10 minutes is going to go by fast just on this topic alone. So,
Yeah.
Doc, do you or can you distinguish between traditional church and a community church?
Well, it's intent. Um, when the Bible talks about the church being the light of the world, it's talking in the form of being an example. See, my faith should be lived out in such a way that it attracts you to me. I don't have to go out there in the world. This is why many pastors and churches are getting in trouble, because they're trying to be like the world. You should be attracting them into you. When it talks about the widows and orphans, it's talking about those who are of the body of Christ. It's not talking about the whole society. The world, the church has never been ordained to take care of the world. The world is going to be the world. But we are to take care of each other's as believers in Christ. And by virtue of us doing that and showing that, it attracts people in. That's how I got saved. I saw somebody living, not preaching the gospel. I saw somebody living the gospel. And it frustrated me so much, I wanted to know why they were always at peace. Because I couldn't relate to the peace the person had.
And Doc, I hear what you're saying, and man, I want to take this opportunity to also say, just like we often do, we can Attorney Greg Jackson, he has the law license, so
yeah.
I'm gonna say I'm not practicing theology because I'm not qualified to do so. Doc, you've been down another path that you got far more experience than me, but I'm speaking as a layperson, and man, I tell you, I would invite a couple of pastors with different viewpoints to come on the show to have the same kind of conversation we're having, to talk and be civil about it, because there's a viewpoint about some churches not being involved per se directly in communities, and then you got the other vantage point of other churches that call themselves community churches. And I asked the question, what does that mean? And I've seen some of the folk that we're familiar with, Doc, that actually are active beyond the four walls of their church in the community.
And there's nothing wrong with being in the church and helping the community. I'm not saying that there is, but what I'm saying is keep the main thing the main thing. And I went out there and served, but I didn't go out there with a dogmatic approach and insisting that if I give you a bottle of water, you got to let me pray for you. Or if I give you some food, you got to come to my church Sunday. Or that I'm going to condemn you because you're out there smoking and you got a beer. See,
and I think we're saying that, and I think we're saying the same thing, Doc, because I don't condemn any faith-based organizations because their style is not being out there in the community and directly engaging. I mean, I don't know what it is you just said. Do what it is you do. And my only thing is do what you do.
Yeah, keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
If you're going out there to simply love on people and help people out who are on hard times or struggling, then make that the focus. Too many people take it as a photo op. And all kind of things. They want to get on social media. See, I went out and fed the homeless. I've never done that. And I went out many times. Me and Arlene by ourselves have fed the homeless. We went down in the woods, the homeless camp, and all that kind of stuff, and prayed for people. We asked them if they would like prayer. If they don't, we keep moving.
And you know what, Doc? Everybody has their own style. And I mean, we've had some leaders on our show that have said, that they're not a marching leader. And what I mean when I say that, or what they meant when they said that, they don't go and go marching in the community. They have other skills and talents that there's a workaround. They're strategic in what they do.
Yeah, and that's fine. And we need those people too.
Exactly.
What I'm saying is, don't complain about being called when you put yourself out there, when you gave everybody your telephone number.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways. And it's a lot of leadership that does that. If it don't go that way, what's the hardest thing to do in the church? Get black pastors to work with each other.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I don't care what town or community you go to, the majority of black pastors will not work with each other.
But why do you think that is, Doc?
Because salvation and winning souls is not their primary focus.
You don't think?
No. I know it's not. I had a friend tell me about a pastor. He say the pastor was cheating and he kept struggling with cheating. And he said to me, I know he loved the Lord. I said, no, he doesn't. And, he was taken aback by that. And I told him, I said, he doesn't, because if he did, if God meant everything to him, that would be his first consideration before he take any type of action that would be displeasing or disserving God. See, and that's how you have to carry your faith. Is it something that I would do and God would approve of? If God was standing right in front of me, would I do this thing? Would I say this thing? Now, that doesn't mean that you're infallible, but you can't keep cheating and getting in your car, going across town, and take your clothes off and get in Alicia's bed and say it was a mistake. There's a conscious effort and a conscious choice making in that process.
Doc, here's what I would say, and I mean, I'm just going to go back full circle. We got less than 2 minutes left. Faith organizations are businesses too, and I heard it said that they're businesses.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
What?
No. That is not the job of the church. It is not a business.
What? Tell me why it's not a business. We got less than 2 minutes. You tell me.
What is the job of the church?
Saving souls.
What is the job of the church?
I'm asking you, saving souls?
Preparing people to minister.
You got 60 minutes, Doc. Go ahead. I'm going to let you.
60 minutes means 60 seconds.
I mean, 60 seconds. I'm sorry.
The primary function of the church is to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. Okay?
Okay.
I can't win souls. I can't win souls. You can't win souls. Well, all we can do is inform people about Jesus and show that He is the path, the way, the truth, and the life. And
is there any level of business? Wait, hold up.
No.
So how do you keep the lights on?
No.
How do you pay the insurance?
Because the mission is so important that the members support that ministry.
Well, tell you what, we down to 10 seconds because you waited till we got here.
Hey, if you know your church is out there to
we got 10 seconds, Doc.
to preach, then you're gonna make sure that it stays open.
Hey, those of you who are watching Let's Talk Nation, he loves to do this. We get down to the last second. Hey, tune in next week from 7 to 8 p.m. And we love to have these conversations. Let's Talk Nation is here for you. Doc Polite, I appreciate you, brother. Hey, for those of you who are watching Let's Talk Nation tonight, tune in next week. We got a little special surprise. Hey, Doc Polite, you don't have to go home, but you got to get out of here. I'll see y'all next week. Let's Talk Nation.